I worked night shifts at a juvenile detention center for 3 years, and I still think about the night Daniel shut down the entire rec room. The kids in juvie carried armor, not the kind you could see, but you felt it the second you walked onto the floor, the way they'd scan you before you even opened your mouth, cataloging your weaknesses like it was survival. Most of them had been failed so many times by adults that cruelty had become their primary language. Dominic ran the social hierarchy of our unit with terrifying efficiency. 16 years old, cornrow braids, face that looked older than it had any right to. He'd been in and out since he was 11, and that history gave him gravity. The younger kids orbited him. When Dominic spoke, rooms rearranged themselves. His weapon of choice was words, not yelling. Dominic never needed to yell. He had this quiet, surgical way of identifying the single thing a person was most ashamed of, and then calmly naming it in front of everyone. I'd watched grown counselors leave his sessions visibly shaken. Daniel arrived on a Tuesday. 14, slight build, barely made eye contact with anyone. His file said he'd been picked up for shoplifting. Bread and canned food mostly. His mother was in the hospital. Nobody came to his intake. For 3 days, he stayed invisible. Ate alone. Sat in the corner during rec time. The kind of quiet that isn't peace. It's practice disappearance. On Thursday night, Dominic decided Daniel was interesting. It started small. A comment about Daniel's shoes during a card game. Then a joke about how even the guards felt sorry for him. The other kids laughed because that's what you did when Dominic performed. You laughed, or you became the next subject. Daniel didn't react, just kept his eyes on the table. Dominic escalated. He started narrating Daniel's file out loud. Not the actual contents, but an invented, humiliating version. A story about a kid so worthless his own mother probably faked being sick to get away from him. The laughter got louder. I was standing near the door, running the required head count. Technically, the banter wasn't crossing a written line yet, but my chest was tight. Then, Daniel looked up, not at Dominic, at the room. He took one slow breath, and when he started talking, his voice was completely flat. He said he noticed Dominic always performed loudest when it was almost visitation day. Said he'd watched for 2 months before arriving. Everyone had someone come through those doors on Saturdays, except one person. The room shifted. Daniel kept going. Same quiet voice. He talked about what it must feel like to have memorized every face that wasn't yours coming through that door. To have learned everyone else's visitor's name because hearing a name called out was the closest thing to being claimed. He didn't say it with cruelty. He said it like he was reading a weather report, like it was simply true, and truth didn't require volume. Dominic's jaw tightened. His hands went flat on the table. Daniel finished by saying that some people build their whole personality around making sure nobody looks too closely at them, and that it's usually because whoever was supposed to look first never did. Nobody laughed, nobody moved. Dominic stood up and left the room without a word. No performance, no parting shot, just gone. I heard his door close quietly down the hall, not slammed, which somehow felt worse. The other kids drifted away in small clusters, talking low. I walked over to Daniel and told him quietly that I'd need to log what happened. He nodded and said he understood. Then he asked me, with absolutely no drama in his voice, whether the cafeteria ever had extra portions on Friday mornings, because he was trying to get his weight up before his mother got discharged, and he wanted her to think he was okay. I told him I'd make sure of it. I've thought about that night 100 times since. 2 kids, both failed by the same systems, both fluent in the same pain. One had learned to use it as a weapon. The other had learned something harder, how to name it without becoming it.